The first thing I felt was betrayal. The thought that my entire life I had been deceived, cheated, by the two people I trusted the most, Mom and Dad. I stood there horrified, still in my pajamas. I mean, how could they not have told me? That Santa isn't real? I mean, seriously, picture this. Christmas morning at 7 years old. My parents standing next to the tree holding my presents from Santa. Of course, they tried to give me excuses at first. I was just tasting the Oreos you left out for him. I was just making sure that the elves did what you wanted. Yeah, right. I mean, sure, I guess looking back on it, my parents' hearts were in the right place. But even then, when it clicked that Santa wasn't real, I felt lied to. But when I entered elementary school, I felt that excitement once again, when I was taught about the American dream. I learned about so many others who, like my own parents, immigrated to this country in pursuit of it. I lit up my sparklers and wove my flag so high, because I was proud of the country of my family. But flash forward 10 years to today, and I'm scared for my country. I was scared when George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and people of color everywhere were facing police brutality. I was scared when the Capitol, a symbol of peace and leadership, was destroyed. I'm 17 years old now, and when I look at the American flag today, I don't know how to feel anymore. Except lied to once again. But now, I've begun to wonder if that American dream ever really existed. James Truslow Adams coined the phrase the American dream, defining it as that dream of a land in which life should be better for everyone, with equal opportunity for all. But as time passes, we've started to see the rise of two polarized perspectives of our nation: the promised land, land of the free and home of the brave, and those that believe this is an unrealistic and outdated definition of our country, often characterizing it as a myth. Larry Samuel, author of The American Dream, A Cultural History, states that this original definition is flawed. Americans should have equal opportunity, but that doesn't mean we all do. And as a society, we should not bend to fit into an antiquated and whitewashed version of the American dream, but rather, redefine it for the 21st century and rebuild our country. So first, let's take a closer look at the origins of the American dream and how its tenets were never attainable for all. Second, observe its progression into the present and the rise of historical whitewashing that has changed our perception of the American dream. For finally, learning about tangible steps taken by our peers, past and present, to cultivate our generational American dream, instead of just inheriting a broken one. But most importantly, in this round, I want to connect with each one of you, my fellow competitors who represent the future generation, and the adults who have the capability of helping us change it. Now, in my head as a kid, America was funnel cakes, amusement parks, and loud noises, or basically everything you'd see at a 4th of July fair. But to my parents, this country was so much more. My parents came here because of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what led me to become a first-generation American. But what I didn't realize was, looking back into history, even with our Declaration of Independence, the origins of the American dream were only offered to white male landowners. And the fact that our foundations were rooted in inequity carries forth today. According to a Pew Research Center study from 2019, most Americans say they have achieved the American dream. But that same study noted that white Americans are significantly more likely than people of color to say so. The American dream projects a fair chance for every individual. It's only truly attainable for those who have crossed systemic boundaries. Harvard medical student LaShira T. Nolan shares in her op-ed Crimson piece that she wishes she could believe in the illustrious American dream. It's her experiences as a Black woman that are poignant reminders that such luxuries are and continue to be reserved for a select few. Essentially, it's hard to achieve the American dream if it was never designed for you to begin with. Now, I also remember the time we had Gold Rush Day in elementary school where we went panning for gold like settlers. And the second I found out the gold was just rocks covered in paint, I knew there had to be more that my school wasn't telling us. And it wasn't until 10th grade, when I took AP US History, that I finally got a history course detailed enough to show the darker sides of America's past. And that's when I realized that this false portrayal of American patriotism that is drilled into students is what perpetuates myths, like the 20th century model of the American dream, and what molds this whitewashed version of it. Rather than arming students with the knowledge they need to confront and deconstruct systemic issues, our textbooks and education chooses to mask these facts. So why does this happen? Well, first of all, textbooks are actually not designed to tell the whole truth. They're designed to make a profit. For instance, the Texas State Board of Education selects public education textbooks, and thus will choose those that are palatable to them. Textbook manufacturers will aim to meet those standards. In fact, history teacher Bryce Janu explains that the history of slavery and lynching in America has been suppressed. In a blog post, he writes, "Textbooks confine lynching to a short time frame. Although the world watched as George Floyd was lynched." Yes, that was a lynching by definition. Being hanged or choked for a crime without legal trial. And so this is the other perspective of America. The part often hidden from us as it happens in front of our very eyes. So, what do we do? How do we start to redefine a term that had its definition written in 1776? Well, oftentimes our first instinct in battling inequality is inclusivity. But we forget that every diversity program or action is futile if it's not accompanied by education and honesty. So the first step is having true conversations about the issues that matter, whether it's discriminatory work practices, systemic racism, or abuse of power. But the next step isn't to try to build on a ruptured foundation. It's to start a new construction project altogether. Close your eyes and imagine the stereotypical American dream. White picket fence, 2.5 children, and a spouse. But an October 2020 survey by the Walton Family Foundation, which polled 4,000 plus millennials and Gen Zers, was telling. When asked to share images that represented the American dream, many did choose a home with a white picket fence, but often indicated that they didn't identify with it. So it's up to us to make those changes in our minds and focus on a position of equal opportunity, rather than assuming it's already there. In fact, according to a Times article, the definition of the American dream is changing, from the opportunity for material success to the freedom of choice in how to live. And to my fellow competitors, we are doing that. Next, we need to change our textbooks. We need to encourage students to do their own research outside of school and have teachers provide those resources. For example, the New York Times 1619 Project is an ongoing education initiative adopted by many schools nationwide as a way to investigate slavery in the U.S. outside of the textbooks. It aims to reframe the way we've taught this aspect of our country's history by placing the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of our national narrative. And it's actions like these that can help to educate the next generation on the reality of our past so we can redefine our future. And as students, many of whom are under 18, it's difficult for us to take the concrete action that we want to. But there is an easy way to get involved, regardless of whether you're a child or an adult. Petitions. And Change.org has many petitions, ranging from those focused on rewriting history textbooks to gaining justice for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. But the rest is your decision. Listen, even after discovering Santa's true identity, the next year I could be found on Christmas Eve, right next to my tree, with a plate of Oreos in my hand. And that's because I redefined Christmas for myself. When I'm finished speaking, it's your turn. I want to hear your voice. And together, we can not only rebuild, but redefine the American dream. Thank you.